Hi, smart friends. Dr. Erika Garms here. Today, I would like to share with you what to do when you have some team members or teammates who don't want to socialize and you want to form some kind of a social activity so that you can keep morale up in your group. So I'll show you exactly what motivates and demotivates people, what it means if they decline offers to do social kinds of things, and then I'll give you some tips for how to keep morale high, even in really trying times. And at the end, I'll share one of my quick guides for understanding people and their behavior. So stay until then. For the best research-based practical workplace advice, check out the new videos I post every week. Make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell so that you won't miss a single one. I'm Dr. Erika Garms, CEO of WorkingSmarts, where we build healthy and high-performing workplaces using brain-friendly methods. I've shared my methods with thousands and thousands of people and tested them with professionals and leaders just like you. Okay, so now what to do when people decline your offers or just don't show up to social events that you're trying to plan, whether they're online events or in-person events. First of all, make it clear to yourself what your aim is in scheduling these events. Is it to show the leader of the group that people are still engaged? Is it to build in something truly fun for people to experience? Is it to let off steam or manage stress? Or is it to test allegiance to the group? So there are a number of different reasons, underlying reasons, that people might be arranging social kinds of events with work groups. And it's really important to start off by getting clear on what your true aim is. And now, with that true aim in mind, let me share a couple things that may be a little counterintuitive to you about motivation. We can't motivate people. Even if we're fabulous leaders and fabulous managers and terrific coworkers, we can't make somebody else motivated or increase their motivation, right? So we are not able to just turn a dial and increase motivation or morale on an individual or on a team. So how do you affect it? By creating conditions in the environment and make the normal state one of high performance, high energy, and movement towards goals, towards common goals. And then people do their own work to engage or not engage. What does motivate people? Well, you might think it's money, first and foremost, and it is to a certain degree, but it is not number one. In fact, in some studies, it's not even in the top 5 motivators of why people stay in a job. So what is on that top 5 list, year after year, study after study, are things like feeling valued for the work that you do, having good, challenging work, having a good relationship with your boss, and having opportunities for growth and development. The top reason that people choose to leave their jobs, any guesses? It's having a poor relationship or a weak relationship with your boss, number one. How do you create conditions so that people are apt to be more motivated, engaged, and have higher morale? Well, you understand what the core needs are, and then you support those needs. It's kind of like having the formula to human behavior. So what are those needs? Well, there's a set of needs that I call the picture model, 5 needs, not hierarchical like Maslow's hierarchy was. These are universal in that we all feel them to a certain degree, but there's variation in how strong each of those needs might be for each individual. Now, I have a live course and an online course and a mini course that go deeper into discussing the differences between people and their needs, and gives you the nitty-gritty about what each of these needs look like and what it looks like when they're being not met or aggravated or what I call threatened. But for the purposes of this short video, I'm going to just skim across the top, the high level, and give you the Cliff's Notes on what the needs are. And then in the video description below, I'll give you 2 links. One link will be to what I call the quick guide to the picture model. So you actually will have a Cliff Notes version of the model with the 5 needs, describing them and describing what it looks like when they're not met. And then the second link will be a link to take the assessment if you want to purchase it and take it. And there's also a mini course that dives in deeper to the picture model and your results if you're interested. So all that will be in the video description below. Now onto the 5 needs that are part of the picture model. Okay, first one, power. We all have the need to understand where the power lies, where the status lies in groups that we're in, or groups that are around us. And this could be a group of 2 or 3, could be a group of 100, could be a group of 1,000 or a whole community, or even a government, right? And it's an entire country. If we don't know where the power lies because it's hidden or masked or unclear to us, then that creates anxiety at a certain level. So if you have a garden variety need for power clarity, then you're a person who that doesn't really aggravate much when it's unclear. If you have a strong power need, that means it really bugs you when you can't tell who really holds the power in a group. One way that this need is aggravated would be when there is a vacant leadership position in any level of the organization. When there's uncertainty about who will temporarily take the power in the group while there is a vacancy, that can be anxiety producing if this need is strong for you. And it might be something that you're easily distracted by or preoccupied by. You might be asking yourself a question in your mind like, who are they going to fill it with? Is it going to be internal or external? Is this something that I want to vie for? Is this something that he or she might log their interest in for? Second need is information. And this is not the need for more information or more data. It's actually not the information, the data that we crave. It's knowing that we have access to the information. So what aggravates this need is when there's something to be known and you don't feel like you have access to it. An example of this might be hearing rumblings in the organization that there will be layoffs or a restructure, or maybe even a senior leader has said, we have restructuring in our future. And when it's time, or eventually, we will be rolling out information about how this will look. Maybe they will point to an intranet site or a particular task force that's working on the details of how this will happen and on some of the decisions. But that is really aggravating because then we know that there is information out there, and this group of people or a tier of people are even working on it and have their hands in it, but we don't have a connection to that group. So that can feel really disempowering and again, very anxiety producing for some people who have this very strong need. Third need, control. And this is pretty cut and dried. Control is the need that we have to have some control over the way that we do our work. It doesn't mean that we necessarily expect that we can call all the shots, but to whatever degree is true for you, we want to have some jurisdiction, some decision-making authority over the way that we get our job done or that we accomplish our tasks. So if you're a person that has a low need for control, you're really okay with getting marching orders and just following them. You might be more comfortable going to your supervisor or manager and asking for frequent feedback, getting reassurance often that you're on the right track or that what you're working on was what they had in mind. If you're a person that has a high need for control, you are a person who likes a lot of freedom, right? You need a lot of space. And if you have a boss that is doing frequent check-ins with you, you're likely to interpret that as breathing down your neck or micromanaging. Fourth need is what I call tetheredness. And the image that I have when I talk about this is a tent, which is tethered to stakes, right? To make it firm, sturdy. And in Minnesota, I guess we talk about and think about camping quite a bit. And so that's why it might be fresh in my mind as an image to symbolize what this means. So tetheredness comes in 3 levels. It's the connection that we need or want with our organization. Now, here are the 3 levels. It has an individual level, a group level, and an organization level. So let's talk about the bottom one first. Individual level. If you are a person who has a strong need for tetheredness, connection to other individuals, then you're going to need eye contact. In these times when we're doing a lot of remote work, you're going to probably crave Zoom time, right? Where you actually see other faces and you interact real time. If you don't have a very high need for that, you don't crave that, and you're pretty much okay doing your own thing remotely without a lot of interaction with your coworkers. Now, of course, misinterpretations can happen here too, because if you're a person who has a strong tetheredness need and it's individual, and I have a low need for this to be met, then you might think that I'm aloof or cold or antisocial, right? This comes up all the time in workplaces. And I might think, what might I think about you? I might read you as too gossipy or not having a good work ethic or not task focused enough, misusing your time. So there are all kinds of judgments that, if we're being honest, we make about each other based on this. Now, I'll briefly tell you about group level and organizational level of tetheredness. If you are tethered at the group level, you are a person who is jazzed about the work that you do as a unit. You are energized by trying to improve efficiency, trying to maintain a good reputation with other units across the organization, process improvements you probably really enjoy. So you're less interested in the day-to-day happy birthday parties for the team, comparing notes on what movies you watched over the weekend or whose kids had a baseball game. You're less interested in that and more interested in the work, the tasks of the work that you do as an individual and as a group. And yes, there are definitely misinterpretations and unfair judgments that are made depending on where you are on this continuum as well. Finally, the organization level of tetheredness is strong for people who don't really care. Not that they don't care, they are comfortable working in a number of different roles and areas of the organization. They know that they are energized by the mission of the organization or the goal of what it does, how it serves people, how it may serve humanity, and that they have a number of gifts that they could offer in different places throughout the organization through their career. Here, let's just say I am an organization tetheredness person. I am not going to be keyed into my coworkers in my individual group as much. I'm going to be looking more broadly at who would I like to get to know, what unit might I like to interact with so that we could do some better cross-fertilization of ideas or cross-training or collaboration as an organization. So these people can be misread too, right? People who are individual and group level tetheredness people, they can see organizationally tethered people as tuned out, living in their ivory tower, think that they're better than us, worker bees, all kinds of things like that. And then the organizationally tethered people might look at group and individually tethered folks and say, can you imagine what they might say in their heads? The big one is they're not strategic minded, right? They're not big thinkers. They're not idea people. And all of these misinterpretations that I'm telling you, they might have an element of truth in them and they might be completely false. I just want you to know that there are some very common, kind of natural misinterpretations and judgments that we make in all of these needs based on our differences and how we read them. Okay, that was all tetherness. The fifth of the picture needs is rightness. If you are a person with a really strong need for rightness, you need to know the basis that decisions are made on. You want the criteria. You need to know that things are done fairly and justly and rightly. Okay? If you don't have a super strong need for this, then you're pretty comfortable letting people who are making decisions make them and trusting that that they were made on solid ground. And if not, you might not like the decision or the direction, but it's not going to ruffle your feathers too much. You'll move on with things and not be too upset by it. A person who has this really strong need for rightness might make some big life decisions based on what's going on at work. So if the leadership, the executive leadership, makes a change in strategic direction or starts a relationship with another company that you think is wrong in terms of your values, it would not be heart-wrenching. It would just be almost a no-brainer that you would start looking for another job and you would feel you needed to leave because you weren't in alignment, and that's something that you can't live with. So those are the 5 needs. Again, I whizzed through those pretty quickly, and there are other places to look for more information. Again, links are in the video description. But the bottom line for all this is we can't motivate other people, right? We can only create the conditions that let them have the chance to motivate themselves. And the way that we do that is by trying to meet those 5 needs as much as possible. So let's go back to the original question, which was, what do I do when somebody doesn't want to socialize? Well, again, the first thing that I asked you was to get really clear on what the reason is that you want them to socialize. And if it is truly that you want the group to feel more energized and unified, then there needs to be room made in your activities for people who are at all those levels of tetherness, people who need some interpersonal connection time, people who want to evaluate how things are going at the group, and maybe people who want to talk about how your work is embedded into the organization and what the future of your group might be. So there needs to be some attention paid to giving time for all of those kinds of people and needs to be welcome and integrated into an activity. You might be thinking about extroversion and introversion, and yes, I am a Myers-Briggs certified person and have used it for decades with various groups and clients, and there is truth to the fact that we are generally more introverted or more extroverted, and that sometimes setting can impact that. So it would be a good idea to notice, recognize, and cater to differences there as well. But know that Myers-Briggs types and personality types are built on a foundation of these 5 needs anyway. So I wouldn't knock yourself out trying to design 16 different types of activities to match different Myers-Briggs types, of which there are 16, as an example. I would just try to meet those basic 5 needs when you're designing an event or an activity, or at least keeping those needs in mind as you're developing a sequence or a series of activities for people to be involved with. And then again, I know I said it already, but this all has to start from, what do you really want out of it? It might be that you are craving some interpersonal connection. If you are craving the interpersonal connection, then you might be projecting onto the group members that they also need it, and they might not. So I think choice is a nice element here too. Maybe you have 1 day a week where there's a Zoom lunch, or when we go back to working in person, that there's an optional Thursday group lunch, and whoever wants to show up can. If they're not able or not interested, that's fine, and there aren't any judgments made about why, okay? And then you might have another type of social activity that is geared on the work. Maybe you have a fun, really active brainstorming process improvement session twice a month, and people either can post things on a board somewhere or on a digital board, or come to a live meeting virtually or in person, and through some sort of semi-structured process, you focus in on the process that you want to improve. So again, the idea is to meet people's needs in order to raise morale and give options and space for people to self-select in or out of activities as they feel meets their needs, because social interaction means different things to different people, and it's important for you to be clear if you're organizing something on what the real purpose is of that interaction. Take good care.